How y'all doing? Good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you, and it is time for the week 0 edition of the Your Season is Over list. A very short and sweet edition today. Yesterday was really just kind of an appetizer, a wet or whistle type of deal, an introductory plate to the season of college football that is now upon us, kicking off with a full slate of games this week. 5 straight days of games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Uncle Lou will be live streaming all 5 days. Stay tuned later in the week for the streaming schedule coming up starting Thursday night for the Florida-Utah game. But anyway, the Your Season is Over video, skipping the dramatic introduction today, the dramatic intro, skipping the walking and grabbing helmets off the wall. We're going to get to all that next week. Just not enough games yesterday, and no major upsets, right? No one really to point and laugh at least not for losing, but we still got plenty to talk about from yesterday. Week 0 now in the books in the world of college football. Welcome to the first Your Season is Over video, 2023 edition. And yes, Uncle Lou has copious notes. Let's start with, let's just start with San Jose State and Southern Cal. San Jose State loses 56-28 to Southern Cal. And man, I don't know if a win has ever felt this much like a loss for a fan base as this does for Southern Cal. The defense might have gotten worse from last year, and that is just hard to understand. And there is just the list of problems and issues defensively with Southern Cal and Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch. It is a mile long. You almost don't even know where to start. I don't know that this is an issue that can be fixed. I'm a believer in the talent that they brought in through the transfer portal and through recruiting. Southern Cal's defense is, just from a roster standpoint, just from an individual player standpoint, is way too talented to perform like they did yesterday. And if you want to know exactly how bad is it, 200 yards rushing allowed to San Jose State. Now, I've already seen some people trying to tell me, well, San Jose State was a bowl. It's San Jose State. I don't remember the last time Georgia gave up 200 yards rushing in a game. I bet you got to go back 5, 6, 7 years to find a time when Georgia gave up that many yards rushing to anybody, let alone we're talking a group of 5 team here. 200 yards rushing, 400 yards total given up to San Jose State yesterday in a home game for Southern Cal. Shout out to the aerial shot they showed of that stadium right at kickoff. Jesus, nobody goes to those games. It's no wonder the Pac-12 is a dying conference, right? 200 yards rushing allowed to San Jose State. 400 total yards allowed to San Jose State. 6 yards per play. 6 yards every single time San Jose State lined up, they were likely to gain 6 yards. 6 yards per play. How does this happen? How does this happen? This is just horrendous. Players out of position. Players out of shape. Players lazy, just not running to the ball. There's all kinds of video clips going around where, the right side defensive end for Southern Cal, San Jose State does a running play off right tackle or off right guard. The right defensive end for Southern Cal might as well not even be on the field. Left defensive end, same thing. They run the other way. He stands around with his thumb up his butt. Out of position, out of shape, lazy, poor tackling, missed tackling, players constantly out of position in the secondary. How many times did Southern Cal give up 3rd and 10 plus in this game? Somebody else said, well, 6 times they held San Jose State to 3 and out. It's San Jose State, okay? How many times did you give up 3rd and 15 plus? I saw a 3rd and 22 they gave up. Where the quarterback takes off running 22 yards, untouched down the field, running by people, running around people. Southern Cal's defense cannot be helped, cannot be fixed. It's a Lincoln Riley problem. I'm not even convinced it's an Alex Grinch problem. Obviously, you're going to have to get rid of Alex Grinch. I'm assuming it won't happen till after the season. Should have happened after last season. He never should have been brought to Southern Cal from Oklahoma. We've been over all that, but he's there now. He'll probably be the scapegoat, but it doesn't matter who they bring in. And any defensive coordinator with any sense at all won't even take the job because it doesn't matter. There is a combination of issues that is being compounded by Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal that is going to make it where this defense is just never going to be viable. It's the philosophy of Lincoln Riley. It's his attitude towards football and the program that he wants to build. It's the way he recruits, focusing on offensive players, right? When he does get defensive players, what kind of players is he getting? I'm not just talking about star rating. What type of players is he getting? And ask yourself this, what types of players might be drawn to Los Angeles and Southern California? Prima donna players, me players. The culture of Los Angeles, there couldn't be a better fit, in my opinion, than Lincoln Riley's culture and LA's culture. Just laid back, cool, chill, calm. And that's the impression you get when you watch a Lincoln Riley defense. It's never going to get better. It's just never going to get any better. You could take individual players off of this Southern Cal defense, put them on other teams who value defense, and they might play pretty well. We can use Bear Alexander as an example. Bear Alexander looked like he never played football yesterday. This is a guy who was so good at the game of football that he not only started for the University of Georgia on the defensive line as a true freshman. I don't care how football ignorant you are. You have to understand how difficult it is for anybody to start on Georgia's defense. Never mind a true freshman. You can count on one hand the number of true freshmen who have started on defense for Kirby Smart. Georgia's absolutely loaded on the defensive line with multiple NFL players year after year. A number 1 overall pick 2 years ago. Jordan Davis the year after that. Or the same year, Jordan Davis. Last year, Jalen Carter. They're loaded. And Bear Alexander was so good. He started. You watch him yesterday. It looked like he was uninterested, didn't want to be there, didn't care about the game of football, couldn't wait for it to be over. It was unbelievable to see. Unbelievable. And they've got 3 or 4 other players on that defense who fit that same bill, who if you took them out of there and gave them some real coaching, a real culture, they would succeed. It's not going to happen at Southern Cal. Bear Alexander might have made the biggest mistake in transfer class history. I look, and I'm not one of these people that just dogs players when they transfer. I'm all for players having the right to transfer. Now, that means a lot of times they're going to wind up bettering themselves, and a lot of times they're going to wind up hurting themselves, right? But I believe it's their choice to make. When Georgia has a wide receiver like Jermaine Burton or A.D. Mitchell that wants to transfer to another team, I might not like it. I like those players. I like what they did for Georgia. I didn't want to see them leave. But I can understand why a wide receiver at Georgia would want to leave and go to another team, another offense, another coach who is a little more pass happy or who is more likely to use them more as a true wide receiver, that kind of. It at least makes sense to me. I don't have to like it. I can even disagree with the player's decision to do it, but I understand why they do it. I'll go to my grave not understanding why the fuck Bear Alexander thought it was a good idea to pack his shit up in Athens, Georgia, where all they do is produce high-end NFL defensive talent and ship his ass on out to Southern California, where by this time next year, not a soul on planet Earth will know who he is. I don't understand it. I hate to be this hard on Bear Alexander because I liked him and I liked his potential future at UGA. And when he transferred to Southern Cal, I didn't rain down on him. I said it was a bad loss of a best defensive lineman. And he is. He would have been Georgia's best defensive lineman this year up under Kirby Smart and Schumann and Muschamp and that defensive staff, flanked by those linebackers and defensive ends. He would have had a monster fucking year at UGA. Go back and watch the national title game last year. Watch the Ohio State game. Watch the Oregon game. The first fucking game of the year. The guy's a true freshman. He's destroying people. His talent is undeniable. A year from now, no one's going to know or care who he is. What a terrible decision Bear Alexander has made. Southern Cal's defense is an absolute joke. 3 days ago, I put out my predictions for the playoffs. I had Southern Cal in the playoffs. People are already laughing at me in the comments. Look, of course, Southern Cal can still make the playoffs. We talked about the bad. We could talk about the good, even though it's obvious. This is a Lincoln Riley team. They're going to be a borderline playoff team every single year. Were you guys not alive when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma making the playoffs every year with this exact same team? No defense at all, and an elite offense with a Heisman caliber QB. That's what he's got now. Of course, Southern Cal can still make the playoffs. Will they? Well, that remains to be seen. They got to go through a gauntlet of Pac-12 games, including Oregon and Utah, and Pac-12 title games or whatever with Oregon, Utah, Washington. It's not going to be easy. The Notre Dame they play, but of course they still have the potential to make the playoffs. They won't win a fucking game if they get there because they're only playing football on one side of the goddamn ball for the 8th fucking year in a row. Jesus Christ. I don't give a fuck about Southern Cal or Lincoln Riley, but as a football fan, this fucking offends me that this dumbass continues to trot this elementary fucking defense out on the goddamn field every fucking year. He is ruining people's futures. God damn it. Caleb Williams, 18 of 25 for 278 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked twice, ran for his life a lot more than that. I don't know about Southern Cal's offensive line. It didn't look elite. But they did run the ball well. So let's give them some credit. Marshawn Lloyd, a transfer they brought in from South Carolina, who I was very high on. 9 carries, 42 yards. That's 4.7 a carry. Austin Jones, 6 carries for 54 yards, 9 yards a carry. He also had 2 touchdowns. Quentin Joyner, 5 carries, 35 yards, 6.8 per carry. But it's San Jose State, Woo. It's Lincoln fucking Riley. They're going to have these numbers offensively every single fucking week. You know it, I know it, and the Argentinian women's beach volleyball team knows it. Shout out to the Argentinian and the Brazilian women's beach volleyball team. Uncle Lou sees you. Yeah. Let's get back on track. Branch and Singer looked great at wide receiver. Look, you already know. You don't need some idiot like me to tell you Lincoln Riley and Southern Cal have an amazing offense. So can they still make the playoffs? Of course they can. I mean, let's not act like this game was close. This was every Lincoln Riley game we've ever seen. They scored 50-something points. They gave up 28. The defense looked like shit. Rinse, repeat. It's just, here we go again. Same shit. God damn, I didn't mean to get that fucking worked up, but man, I don't know. Navy 3, let's move on. Navy 3, Notre Dame 42. Look. Notre Dame looked good. I don't understand college football fans are a funny bunch. So Notre Dame comes out. They beat the absolute soul and will to live out of Navy. They looked absolutely amazing. Notre Dame did. There is not a single bad thing you can say about Notre Dame's game yesterday. And around the middle of the second quarter, I start hearing, seeing it all over the place already. Oh, it's Navy. It's Navy. Look at Lou hyping up Notre Dame because they're whooping up on Navy. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? Give up 28 points? Give up 400 yards, give up 200 yards rushing, give up 6 yards per play. Is that what you want them to do? Notre Dame, everybody's talking about Sam Hartman and Notre Dame's offense. And yes, they played great. Not enough people are talking about this defense. Listen to this for Notre Dame yesterday. Let me find where I wrote this dumb shit down. Notre Dame defensively yesterday gave up 128 yards rushing. That's it. That's good to anybody you play. They did this against Navy. That's right. They held Navy to 128 yards rushing. Navy was the 4th or 5th best rushing team in the country last year. 250 yards per game. Per game. Notre Dame held them to 128. Now, forget the passing numbers. They don't even try to throw the ball. They have 40 yards passing. But Notre Dame defensively deserves some credit for what they did in this game. Now, to be fair, the tricky part about playing a triple option team is that you have a short window to prepare, generally speaking, when you catch a Navy or any other triple option team during the season. So you got to play somebody on Saturday, right? The following Saturday, you got to play Navy. That only gives you 5-6 days to prepare. Notre Dame's had basically 8 months to prepare, but still, they could not have played any better. They could not have played any better. Navy had a couple of good, successful, sustained drives, but overall, Notre Dame's defense shut this running game down, and that's impressive. To hold Navy to 128 rushing yards is impressive. What about Notre Dame? They had 191 rushing yards. Yes, Sam Hartman played great. We'll get to his numbers in a minute. But Notre Dame ran the ball for 191 yards, 6 yards per carry. Foreshadowing. They play Ohio State coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks, don't they? Some point. Week 4, is it? I know Sam Hartman can sling the ball, and he'll have to do it a time or two against Ohio State, I'm sure. But if you've watched Michigan and Ohio State the last couple of years, it sure looks to me like Notre Dame is preparing to line up and run it down Ohio State's throat. That's what it looks like to me. We'll see what happens when that game comes around. Plenty of time to talk about that later. Sam Hartman, 19 of 23. Unbelievable. 251 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great performance all the way around from Notre Dame. Now, I'm not going overboard. I had Notre Dame just outside my top 10. I had Notre Dame, I think, ranked 12th or something like that. Let's see some other teams play week 1. I've heard, the overreactions already. Oh, Notre Dame's the best team in the country. Notre Dame's going 100-0. Notre Dame's beating Ohio State by 40. And then the Southern Cal game comes on last night, and people are like, oh, Notre Dame will beat this Southern Cal team by 100 points. That game's 3 months away, people. Let's calm down. That game's 3 months away. A lot can happen between now and then. But the funny part about college football fans, Notre Dame comes out. They do exactly what a good team is supposed to do to a bad team. They absolutely destroy them. Offensively and defensively, Notre Dame controlled and dominated that game from beginning to end. And fans give them absolutely no credit at all. Why? It's Navy, woo. At night, Southern Cal comes out and plays San Jose State, right? What happens? San Jose State runs for 200, 400 total yards, 6 yards per carry. Like, can't you see the difference there? So it's not like anyone's trying to crown Notre Dame national champions today because they destroyed Navy. But can't you see the difference between the two? Between what Notre Dame did to Navy and what Southern Cal did to San Jose State? So Notre Dame deserves some credit. And look, that's not normally the point of the Your Season is Over videos. And I'm only doing it today because it's week 0 and there's just not enough games to talk about. But you can't just shit on teams and not point out when they obviously do well. And Notre Dame yesterday obviously played well. There's nothing you can find about Notre Dame yesterday to point to that would concern or alarm you. And that's clearly not the case with Southern Cal at all. On to Vanderbilt and Hawaii. Now, Vanderbilt won this game, but man, they did not look great. 35-28, they beat Hawaii. And again, I'm not a stats guy, but sometimes when you're watching a game, certain things just become so obvious and so glaring. And I'll make a mental note of it, and then the next day I'll make sure and look it up before I do this video. Watching the game yesterday, and I'm asking myself, why can't Vandy run the ball? Now, I know they're Vandy, but they're an SEC team, and they're playing Hawaii. We talked about Southern Cal and maybe being a little soft. Wouldn't you sort of assume Hawaii may be a little bit of a soft? Vandy had 40 yards rushing yesterday. 40 against Hawaii. And you're probably thinking, well, maybe Hawaii is really good against the run. No. How bad is Hawaii against the run? Last year, Hawaii gave up 215 yards per game against the run. 215 yards per game against the run last year. Vandy yesterday could only manage 40 yards. There were only 5 teams in the country last year that were worse against the run than Hawaii was defensively. This is very concerning for Vanderbilt that they just complete ineptitude when it comes to running the ball. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is I thought their quarterback played well, A.J. Swan. He can run around when he needs to. He's just mobile enough, just athletic enough in the pocket. 258 yards yesterday, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, completed 65% of his passes. He had a good game, and Hawaii, Vanderbilt hangs on to win 35-28. Now, they were favored by 17.5 in that game. And while I didn't bet any spreads this weekend, it's funny. Every time I come on and laugh at a team, I'll get at least 4 or 5 comments that'll say, well, Lou must have bet on that team, so he's just mad because he lost money. I got that yesterday on the Vandy game. I got it on the... I made a video laughing at halftime about the Southern Cal's defense. I'm sure y'all saw it. I got some idiot in the comment section going, I guess he took Southern Cal to cover. No, I just have a pair of eyes and get pissed off when I see piss poor defense, dummy. No, the only bet I had that was affected at all by anything that happened yesterday is I do have a bet on Vandy's win total for the season at over 3.5. So the Vegas win total for Vandy in the regular season was 3.5. I took the over, And in order for Vandy to have any chance of hitting the over, they absolutely had to beat Hawaii. They probably need to go at least 3-1 in the non-con. At least 3-1. They play Wake Forest. And after what I saw yesterday from Vandy, I thought Vandy was going to be a good team this year. I thought they could get bowl eligibility, win 6 games. Even if they went 3-1 in the non-con, would have lost to Wake Forest, I thought they could then maybe win 3 SEC games. What I saw yesterday, that team's not winning 3 SEC games. That game's not getting to a bowl. Team's not getting to a bowl. They got a lot of work to do at Vandy. And as bad as Vandy looked yesterday, or as disappointing as Vandy looked yesterday, that's not even the worst of it. Well, their stadium. Now, listen, football's been around for 100 years. This shit's a science at this point. Lots of teams renovate their stadiums. Lots of teams make additions to their stadiums. Lots of teams have to tear down portions of their stadium to rebuild them in a different way or whatever. You start that shit in the middle of January so that you've got it wrapped up by 8 months later by the time the football season starts. This stadium renovation or construction or whatever the fuck they're doing at Vandy Stadium, this shit looked like they started it a week ago. I'm going to look at this video I found on TikTok. This is during the game. The friggin' scoreboard for Vandy is being held up by a goddamn crane. I mean, this is just, what are y'all doing, man? Seriously. The opposing team, Hawaii, they ain't got no locker room. The locker room's been destroyed for the renovation, and they're so far behind they ain't built a new one. They had a damn circus tent, a pop-up tent. There's pictures of it all over Twitter. I'll put one up if I can remember. They had Hawaii in a goddamn circus tent, which is bad enough. But you got to remember, this game was delayed by almost 2 hours. The start of this game was delayed by almost 2 hours because of a thunderstorm, lightning. You got Hawaii. The Hawaiian football team has to escape Hawaii, where the entire state is on fire over there. That huge fire. Thoughts to the victims and all that. I'm not making a joke about that, but they escape all that just to come to Nashville, Tennessee, and hole up in a circus tent during a thunderstorm. Man, Vandy, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves, man. Y'all should have thought this through a little bit more, but you didn't. There was a handful of other games yesterday, but nothing involving Power 5 teams are really of note. So I just wanted to come on this morning, sort of hit the ground running on the Your Season is Over video. Starting next Sunday, I know it's a little weird because we got games on Sunday night and Monday night, but I'm going to do a regular Your Season is Over video next Sunday morning for the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday games. And it'll be the full-blown Your Season is Over with the pointless 2-minute intro and the whole deal, okay? And then I'm going to do a second Week 1 Your Season is Over video Tuesday morning that'll be more like this one, and I'll just talk about the Sunday night game and the Monday night game, which is LSU, FSU, and Clemson, Duke. So anyway, there you go. Week 0, Your Season is Over. Shout out to Vandy, Southern Cal, and Notre Dame. Undefeated!